What's up, everybody? It's Chase with Energy to Conquer, and today is day 32 on my experimental journey to improving my energy, my mental clarity, and just my overall focus. And today I'm going to go over with you my 75 hard story and just kind of share that with you. Hopefully be inspiration for other people that is going into the journey that hasn't completed it yet, or maybe you're thinking about doing it. This is kind of my experience and what I got out of it, and just kind of the way this thing has changed my life. So I went through 75 hard, completed 75 hard, and I also have went through phase 1 and completed phase 1 of the Live Hard program. I started phase 2 probably back in February, 1st of February or middle of February, and it's now May, almost June, but I went through that, got to day 27. I was actually doing 75 hard and phase 2, and I had a foot injury, so I ended up stopping, thinking I could just let it heal for like 2 weeks and jump back into it. I was going to do 75 hard anyway, so I should have just finished 3 more days and finished phase 2 out, but I, like a dummy, I didn't, and ended up taking like a month and a half for my foot to heal. But anyways, here I am, I'm back, I'm starting 75 hard now. So just starting the whole Live Hard year over at this point, because there's no way I can make the phase 3 in time. And so anyways, I say all that to just kind of share my story and my experience from 75 hard and what I got out of it, and just the way it's changed my life. Because I think some people come into this and they look at it as a fitness challenge, and that's not what this is at all. This is a mental toughness challenge. This is going to give you self-confidence. It's going to give you self-esteem. Like, it's going to give you self-belief, I guess, self-belief or belief in yourself. It's going to give you grit. It's going to give you fortitude. It's going to give you all these things. And so I just wanted to kind of share that with you. So when I started this program, I was listening to the MF CEO podcast. It was MF CEO then. Now it's Real AF with Andy Frisella. So I had found that podcast probably back around February of, I guess it's 2019. I'd actually found an Ed Mylett interview on The Passionate Few, which is a great interview. If you haven't listened to that, you can go look it up. But so I found the Ed Mylett podcast, or interview with Ed Mylett, and I searched on Spotify. I just searched for Ed Mylett to find some more because I liked what he was saying, and it come up with MFCEO interviewing Ed Mylett. So that's kind of how I found it, and once I found it, kind of fell in love. Up to like probably 2 years before that, I had listened to nothing but Dan Pena. I had saw Dan Pena on a Grant Cardone interview a long time ago, but basically Grant Cardone, or Dan Pena, told him that all his stuff is free, and if you can't find it on your website, then go look it up on the torrent site and download it. And Grant Cardone kind of said, well, what's a torrent site? And Dan Pena says, well, the kids will know, right? And so that interview is no longer available. You can't find that anywhere on you can't find any Dan Pena interviews on any of Grant Cardone's stuff, which is kind of funny, but I think it was like a Power Players interview or something. But anyways, so I went, and sure enough, there was some stuff on his website, but I went and looked on the torrent site, and sure enough, there was 16 gigs of stuff. So audio, mainly audios, but there's some video seminars in there going back to early 90s. And I just dove into all that stuff. Like, that's what I needed at that time. I'd been listening to a lot of Tony Robbins, a lot of other stuff, a lot of different programs like that, which is a lot more softer, a lot more politically correct, and kind of not telling you what you want to hear, but really softens it up so they can sell more, right? And Dan Pena is the complete opposite. So I needed that, so I dove into that for probably 2.5 years, and I come out of that and started listening to the MFCEO. So that's kind of where I at. And so at that point, I just jumped into those, and I started, there was like, I don't know, around 300 episodes at that time, close to 300. And so I just started diving in those like every day. I started listening to that, and that's basically all I was listening to at that point. So I'd listen to the new stuff as it come out, but I went back and I was listening to like the first 100. I ended up making it through about 150 of those, I think. But when they switched the title over, it screwed up my data, so I'm not sure which ones I'd listened to and which ones I hadn't, because it jumped around a lot. But I say that to say I was listening to it when this came out, so I think it was about April or May of 2019, and it was on the James Lawrence interview, The Iron Cowboy, which is a great interview. If you hadn't listened to it, go listen to that. Is just a crazy story, but basically Andy Frisella has this aha moment in the middle of the interview, and then the next podcast he comes in, just kind of randomly comes out with this 75 hard program. I was actually doing a P90X workout when I was listening to the James Lawrence. It was about 2 or 3 days after it come out, but I was just kind of, I've done those workouts so many times at that point on the P90X3, I think it was, that I was basically just listening to podcasts, and I had it playing in the background, doing the workouts in the background, because I knew everything to do. I knew what they was going to say. I knew all the jokes. It was just so boring and monotonous at that point. I was just listening to podcasts in the background. So I was already doing the 2 45-minute workouts. I would do it like maybe a 30-minute, and then I would run. So I do like P90X or something like that, or some kind of yoga or something for like 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and then I would go run for probably another, sometimes, I'm not sure, probably 30 minutes to an hour back then. And so I wasn't running a whole lot back then, but that was kind of my routine. And I found that I'd kind of fell in love with that, because it gave me so much energy to do like a AM and a PM. Like usually I was doing like a early morning, and then like a later afternoon workout, or midday afternoon workout. So that gave me so much energy. And so I was already doing it. So I was like, you know, I'm all on board. Let's do this for 75 days and read. And I read a lot, but I'm not as consistent as I should be. You know, I'll read a bunch for a period of time, and then I'll kind of stop and then come back to reading, and just, so it's not really as consistent as I'd like it to be. So that, and I already drank a lot of water, so I was like, this makes perfect sense. I get why he's doing all this, but I had no idea what I was getting into. And just the mental side of this, you know, I didn't understand that at the time, but man, this thing completely changed my life. So basically I jumped into the program then, and I started it, and I think I was doing keto at the time, ended up crashing like about 2 months into it. Like the workouts, I don't know if I wasn't getting enough carbs. I think it was probably just my body bottomed out on carbs, but I may not been getting enough fat or calories. I'm not 100%, but I know when I would go run, it was just like torture. Like I had done a lot of running, and so I know, like I've run up to like 15 miles and like mountainous trails, and just like I could run up to 4 hours at one point. So, you know, that's not fast running, that's more like a slow jog for me, but this kind of rough horse trails, just backcountry hiking trails. But so I know what fatigue feels like, and every day I would go run, it just felt like my muscles felt like I had run, you know, a half marathon or something the day before. Like they would just be completely wiped out every time. So as soon as I started running, and so I ended up crashing so hard I couldn't finish the workouts. My muscle just became so fatigued, and it may have been a calorie deficit, I don't know. But so anyways, I crashed then. I was probably, you know, probably a month or 2 into it. I'm sure I think I'd failed about day 25 and then started over, and I was probably up to about day 30, crashed. So anyways, I got that straightened out, started a different diet plan, jumped into it, and I basically at that point I was just trying to run for I was trying to do, because I wasn't doing, I didn't have a whole lot of workouts. You know, like I said, I'd done some other workouts, but basically I was just going to run. I was so pumped up after listening to the Iron Cowboy podcast. I was just going to run 2 45 minutes twice a day, and basically I wasn't doing any stretching or anything. And I ended up getting so tight in my legs, my hips, you know, my hamstring, everything, like my glutes is getting so tight. I ended up jacking up my back. And so towards the end of that, I don't know, I was probably another 25 days in, 30 days in. But basically I was to the point where only thing I could do was walk, and had to take about 6 ibuprofens and a wire back brace, and I'd go to the park because it's flat and just walk. I got a fly flying around my head, and I would just walk, and that's kind of what I would do. But I was trying to, you know, push through it and get better, but it never did get better, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I think a lot of contributing to it on top of that was the chair that I was using, and I was getting really focused. I had a lot going on at work at the time, so I think it was just a combination of things. And so ended up, my back was so jacked up, I ended up just stopping the program. And so by that time it was probably August, September, but my back, so this was 2019, but my back gave me problems with that, because I didn't know what to do. You know, I tried to do some yoga and stuff. Every time I do it, it just aggravated more. And so I didn't really try too hard to stretch, but because when I did, I would mainly focus on my back, but really it was my legs and just the learning curve there. But I kind of really just hit a low more than anything, and just my diet went all to hell, and just my mindset went all to hell, just completely defeated. And I knew coming into that, you know, one of the things that Andy Frisella talked about, you know, in the beginning of that program is like, if you do this, and complete it, like it's going to give you like this mental toughness and just this I guess self-esteem and all that stuff. But if you don't complete it, it's going to kind of do the opposite, and it's going to be like every other program you've ever done if you've not completed them. So kind of wallowed in just the defeat, because, you know, I tried twice, just failed miserably, and my back ended up hurting all that winter and all the way into the next spring, which was 2020. So I started again around end of May, maybe 1st of June. I think it was the 1st of June. Ended up restarting. I failed a couple times, like, and every time, when I say I failed, like every time I failed, it's usually because of the picture. Those pictures get me every time, like the diet, like all that stuff, the water, like unless it's like an injury, I think I failed one time because of the diet. But other than that, it's always I forget the picture. But that's a side note, so make the pictures a priority, and I think that's part of the discipline of it. But the thing is, so we did that, and actually did it with my wife in June. I think ended up restarting in the middle of June, maybe towards the end of June, and I finished in September. So, but here's the thing, guys. You know, when I finished this thing, my grandfather, his health has always been really good. He's in his late 80s. He was kind of like, I guess, a father figure, like more of a stable father figure in my life. Kind of grew up with him, more or less, and so it's kind of like that relationship. But he's in his late 80s, but he's always had great health. And so at the end of this, we knew his health was kind of going down. We didn't know what was going on, maybe some memory problems, whatever, and he started falling. Well, he fell at the end of this and ended up taken to the hospital. But so he'd had a stroke is what happened. So he ended up having I guess his brain was bleeding from the stroke. So basically they sent him home on hospice. So apparently he'd been having many strokes the whole time, but he refused to go to the doctor and wouldn't tell nobody. So I say that to say, you know, I'm coming up to the end of this. They sent him home on hospice. So I'm basically there every day. I'm finishing this thing out. And he ends up passing away 3 days. He's on hospice for, I don't know, almost 10 days, somewhere around there. But he passes away. Like, I finished 75 hard 3 days before he passes away. And I can tell you, like, I was the strongest mentally and physically I've ever been in my life at that point. And so all those failures and all those things that defeated me coming up to this, it's almost like after that happened, it was almost like all those things were happening on purpose, right? It's like, because the timing on that was perfect. 3 days. He passed away 3 days after I finished this thing. You know, and I was there every day, didn't work, was there for like 10 days, basically, to be there with my grandma and just help whatever I could do. And so 3 days, you know, he passed away, I finished, before he passed away, I finished it. And so through the funeral and everything, I actually ended up having COVID during the funeral. But, you know, that's a whole nother story. You know, we didn't know what we had, but that's what it was. After, you know, hearing everybody else that's had it, you know, I don't think there's any denying, and I actually tested positive for antibodies. So in addition to all that, like fighting through all that, and it's like, you know, that set me up. And so when you go through this thing and you fail, like, it's not an excuse to fail, but just know that, like, the timing is going to be perfect, like, when you get it, right? And so maybe there's a bigger purpose there. And so anyways, I ended up finishing that. You know, like I said, I was at the peak mentally, physically. I would have jumped into the phase 1, but I was not clear on that, and I thought I had to actually wait 30 days. So I ended up waiting 30 days, jumped in October, and made it through like 23 days. Ended up failing on my son's birthday because I had one too many. I had a second barbecue sandwich, and I had miscalculated my carbs. And so after I got done, I went back because I was still counting my carbs, but I miscalculated my diet up to that point. And so after I got done eating, I went to recalculate it, and I was like, crap. And so I had to start over. So I ended up doing phase 2 or phase 1 for like probably what, 50, 60 days, somewhere around there, to finish out. But I finished that out the 1st of December, and then kind of got off track a little bit with the holidays. I started a program called Warrior, which is a different program. Like, it's more about getting your stuff together. But like that phase 1 was like, I was going through that, and the task and the to-do list and the things you have to do that's added to that part of it, it's like I'd never been able to complete a to-do list the way I was doing it, because as you get into phase 1, it's like that is part of the requirements, is to start doing your, I guess, your power list. And it's like that right there, like I was hitting levels, like when I finished 75 hard, I felt like I could run through the wall. Like I was so pumped up, confidence, just the grit, just the fortitude, like I could do anything, like it ain't nothing gonna stop me. And I thought I was on top of the world. But by the time I got into about middle way through that phase 1, it's like, holy crap, like I'd have a long list of stuff I need to do every day, and I was checking everything off, and I was just crushing it, everything. And it's like I ain't never been so productive. I never had so much mental clarity. I never had so much energy. I never felt so good. Never had so much confidence. Never had so much self-esteem. Like the power of this is just crazy. And I've done a lot of programs. You know, I went through Tony Robbins, the Personal Power 2. I've been through that program like 4 times. I've listened to audio once and did the workbook 3 different times. And so I've been through these programs, and I've been through so many of these programs, and there's nothing that I've paid for. I don't think there's anything that even comes close to teaching you what this program can teach you for free. But to pick back up where I was at, I come into Warrior in January because I had, you know, going through this process and doing this to 75 hard, I kind of felt like I really wasn't balancing family well, and business I was crushing, my health I was crushing, but I felt like the family part was kind of getting neglected. And so I just kind of felt like in a rough spot there. I was about to invest in another coaching program for more on production and sales, that kind of stuff for my business. And I ended up not doing it because I was just like, you know, I've taken so many of these courses, I've done so many of these things. Like there's fundamentally something that's not clicking here, and I don't want to just jump into another one. I'm sick of jumping into these programs and not really getting the full results. So I ended up stumbling into this Warrior program, signed up like last minute. It started like January the 3rd or something. But this program was basically to help you find balance in your, I guess, between your business and your fitness and your family, then I guess your relationship with God, or your being side of it. So it was kind of finding that, and it's kind of what I signed up for, because I felt like I was at a pivotal point, and there was just a lot of stuff that wasn't working, even though the productivity was through the freaking roof and the fitness was through the roof. And so I get into this program, really had no clue what I was getting into, and this thing, like, I cannot express, like it was tough, because it's more about looking in and stop lying to yourself and just getting real, raw, truthful and honest with yourself, and just kind of cutting all the BS and addressing and facing the stuff that you've been running from your whole life. And it sounds kind of cheesy and kind of cliche, but the way they go through this is just so brilliant to get you to stop lying. And you know, and I've seen the experiences that the other men were going through that was in this group. I think there's a women's group too, but I can only speak about the men's. And just I could see all the problems that these guys were having. And so, you know, and it's like 90% of the problems I had was the same problems these guys are having. And it's like, you know, 90% of the problems in the group was the same, you know. And here you go through life and you're thinking that your problems are different, right? And there's something wrong with you, and you're flawed, and all this and all that. But because everybody's kind of quiet, nobody talks about it. But I got in this group, and it's like, holy crap, like we're all struggling with the same stuff, but we're all pretending we don't have any problems. And so anyways, this thing just kind of got raw and gritty, and just, you know, I mean, it was just emotional ups and downs. And I can tell you, I would never have completed that program if it was not for 75 hard and the grit and determination that came with the 75 hard. Like, there's no way I would have ever stuck through that. There's no way I'd have had the confidence to even do it. because you know, basically you're in a big group and you're just going through this curriculum together with a group, and you're kind of guiding and leading each other going through the stuff as you go through it, and it's just so powerful. But you know, I wouldn't, if before 75 hard, before you know any of that, there's no possible way. I don't care, you couldn't have paid me to do that for any amount of money, and I definitely wouldn't have stuck to it. I would have gotten there and I'd stayed for about a week or two, I'd gotten uncomfortable, and I'd left. And so I say that to say, you're going to get stuff out of this that you're not even going to, like, you cannot possibly fathom the experience you're going to get out of this if you do it, and if you're honest and you don't cut corners and you don't cheat. If you cheat and cut corners, you're only cheating yourself. You're screwing yourself is what you're doing. So don't lie. If you start, you know, if you fail, you're just going to have to start over. Like I said, I screwed up on the extra barbecue sandwich, and I knew I couldn't. Like the next morning I woke up and I realized it, and it's like, I knew I couldn't. There's no way I could go on, because the whole thing would be based on a lie after that. So, you know, I just had to start over, as hard as it was, and it was kind of defeating for a day, but just jump back in there and do it. And so through that experience, you know, I went through Warrior, and that thing kind of changed my life as well. But I would have never had I would have never been able to go through that, you know. And now I'm to a point where going through that and being able to just be real and honest with, and just get, you know, just gritty going through that process. Like, now I'm completely restructuring my business. I'm still in I guess the extended program of that. It's more like a business coaching type, I guess, life thing, but basically they teach you to balance, teach you how to balance your, I guess, your body, which is your fitness and your health and your kind of what you eat, and then your being, which is kind of your spiritual side and kind of your relationship with yourself. And then you've got your balance, which is your family and your friends, those relationships in your life, and then your business. And so that's kind of what the whole is, balancing those four instead of getting out of whack, because at best most people can only juggle two without some kind of system. So it's a system to manage that. But so going through that process and really getting clear, you know, again, through that grit, because there's no way I would even still be in this program almost, you know, five months later. There's no way I would still be doing this if I didn't go through 75 hard. And like, to the point now, the last, you know, probably the last month, I've been focused on restructuring my business and completely pivoting from where I was going, because, you know, going through that process and just getting real and just having the grit and fortitude to go through that process, you know, I've addressed issues that, you know, basically I was going down this path instead of the path that I knew I should have been going all along, because, you know, I didn't have the courage to face it. But now understanding that, and the, you know, the courage to look at the truth, and then the courage to face the stuff, and the grit and the fortitude to face the things that I don't want to face, that I didn't want to face, and that are kind of lying to myself, you know, and hiding from or running from. Like, I'm completely pivoting my business in a completely different direction now. Like, that's my focus and that's what I'm working on. But none of this would have happened without 75 hard. Like, nothing. Like I don't think I'll ever be the same. And like, I've been in and out of this program. Like, I started phase 2, like I said, it's May now, it's end of May, almost June. And so I started, you know, at middle of February, I think. And it's like, you know, every time I come back into this program, it's like, man, it just feels like home. Because I know it's almost like a drug, because you hit such highs physically and mentally. Like, the mental part of this, the energy part of this, the confidence, the self-esteem you get from this is it's gonna rock your world. There's no other way around it. And if you do it and don't lie, and you do everything you got to do, I promise you, at the end of 75 days, you're going to be a different person, and you're going to be able to take on some big things, and probably things that you've been avoiding for a long time. So anyways, that's all I got to say, guys. This is really long, and I hate to make it so long, but it's kind of a long story there. But, you know, if you stuck around to the end, I'm telling you guys, do this, produce 75 hard. Focus on the 75 hard. When you get done with the 75 hard, if you need to take a break, take a break. But don't skip the phase 1, because everything that you get and how you're going to feel at the end of 75 hard is not even going to be in comparison once you get about middle way through a phase 1 and get to the end of phase 1, because you're just going to be a machine. Like, I'm telling you guys, Like if you're wanting productivity, if you're wanting clarity, if you're wanting focus, if you're wanting energy, if you're wanting drive, like if you're wanting all this stuff, confidence, self-esteem, like guys, I don't think there's no other program you can do. Short of joining the military, like I don't think you're going to get anything that compares to this, and it's free and it's all on you. I don't think there's a program you could pay for that's going to teach you the stuff that's in this that you're going to get out of this. So guys, I'm going to leave you guys with that, and I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Be day 33.